He was born in a hospital in Lucknow, British India, during one of the most chaotic times in modern history. The world was at war, India was fighting for independence, and the British Empire was coming apart. His name was Harry Roger Webb, and no one back then could have imagined that this little boy, born in 1940, would one day become one of Britain's biggest music icons. But nothing about his early life made things easy. His family was caught in the middle of political unrest and violent riots. In 1946, when British rule in India was collapsing, they packed up and escaped the country aboard a slow-moving ship called the SS Ranchi. It wasn't a luxurious farewell. It was crowded, long, and uncertain. They left behind everything familiar and stepped into a cold, rationed, grey post-war England. Settling in a small house in Surrey, the Webbs struggled to adjust. Their comfortable life in India had disappeared, and young Harry had to start over in a country that felt foreign. But perhaps it was that sudden change, that complete loss of what he once knew, that gave him the drive to become someone new. Someone unforgettable. As a teenager, Harry found himself drawn to music. But even then, being good wasn't enough. He needed a new identity. One that could stand out. His manager saw something special and gave him a name that sounded stronger and more British. Cliff, for stability, and Richard, in honor of Little Richard, the wild and bold American rock star. That's when Cliff Richard was born. Not just a name change, but a whole new persona. And with that, he was ready to shake up British music. At just 18 years old, Cliff released a song that would change everything. Move It came out in 1958, and it wasn't polite or polished like most music of the time. It was raw, edgy, and full of energy. For the first time, British youth had a rock star they could call their own. The song hit number 2 on the charts and was just the beginning. Suddenly, the spotlight turned to this young man with a guitar and a swagger that hadn't been seen in the UK before. He wasn't copying the Americans. He was showing that Britain had its own voice in rock and roll. What followed was pure madness. Fans went wild, especially the teenage girls, and the press couldn't get enough. This new wave of excitement became known as Cliff hysteria. Security couldn't control the crowds. Parents were worried. Boys felt threatened. But the music world loved it. Cliff was a star, and his records were flying off the shelves. In 1959, he released Living Doll. He didn't even like the song at first. But once it was changed into a slower, more relaxed version, it exploded. 6 weeks at number 1 and nearly 800,000 copies sold. He followed it with Travelin' Light, which also hit number 1. In a flash, Cliff became the first British artist to sell over 1 million records with 2 back-to-back hits. His impact wasn't just musical. It was cultural. Film producers quickly noticed. His debut movie, Serious Charge, tackled subjects that were still considered taboo. It showed Cliff wasn't afraid to take risks. Another film, Espresso Bongo, poked fun at the music industry and again proved he wasn't just another pop face. He wanted to be taken seriously. In 1963, he starred in Summer Holiday, and it turned into a national event. Fans packed into Leicester Square for the premiere. The songs from the film dominated the charts. The movie was fun, colorful, and optimistic. Cliff became more than a singer. He was a symbol of a brighter post-war Britain. But just as he was reaching his peak, a new band arrived that would change music forever. The Beatles. Everyone assumed Cliff would fade as Beatlemania took over. But he didn't. In 1964, when the Beatles had 5 top 10 hits, Cliff had 6. His songs were still on the radio. His name was still in the papers. And even John Lennon and Paul McCartney admitted that Cliff had laid the groundwork for British pop to go global. He had been there first. By 1965, Cliff Richard was no longer just a British star. He was voted the world's top male singer. Above Elvis, above Lennon, above McCartney. He managed to evolve without losing who he was. His songs were accessible. His style was clean. And his presence was steady. In a fast-changing world, Cliff was constant. But 1966 brought something even more surprising. He stood on stage with Billy Graham and told the world he had become a Christian. For someone with a rebellious image, this was shocking. People thought he was giving up music. Some even thought he was about to vanish from the spotlight. But he didn't. Instead of stepping away, Cliff brought his faith into his music. Not in a preachy way but as part of who he was. And fans respected it. He became the first major pop star in the UK to openly talk about religion and still top the charts. He wasn't hiding or pretending. And that made people listen. By the mid-70s, things slowed down. For the first time in his career, he had no hits. Some critics said he was finished. But in 1976, he came back stronger than ever. Devil Woman was a darker, more mature track. It sold over 2 million copies and became a massive hit in both the UK and the US. Even hard rock legends like Jimmy Page and Elton John praised it. Suddenly, Cliff was cool again. And he didn't stop there. In 1987, he released Always Guaranteed, a sleek pop album influenced by Michael Jackson's Thriller. It was fresh, modern, and sold over 1 million copies. Cliff had managed to stay relevant through 4 decades of changing music. Then came Christmas. In 1988, he released Mistletoe and Wine. It was soft, spiritual, and full of heart. It became the biggest single of the year and is still heard every December. The following year, he released his 100th single. To celebrate, he invited fans to a private concert and even let them choose his next release. It was a moment of connection between a star and the people who had supported him for decades. Later that year, he took over Wembley Stadium with a concert called The Event. It was split into 2 halves, one honoring the past, one celebrating the present. The crowd loved it. The media praised it. And it proved that Cliff wasn't just riding on nostalgia. He was still performing at the highest level. That same year, he achieved something no other artist had. He became the only singer to have #1 hits in 5 straight decades, from the 50s through the 90s. That's not just success. That's history. In 1990, Cliff shared the stage with music legends like Paul McCartney, Pink Floyd, and Elton John at Nebworth Park. It rained the entire time, but he performed with energy and confidence, showing he belonged among rock's elite. That December, Savior's Day became another Christmas hit, adding to his list of chart toppers. The music video was cheerful, even though it was filmed in warm weather with people pretending it was December. It worked. The song became a favorite. That same period saw the release of Private Collection 1979 to 1988, a greatest hits album that sold over 1.2 million copies. Songs like We Don't Talk Anymore pushed him further into the spotlight and kept the momentum going. In 1999, Cliff once again faced industry pushback. His single Millennium was rejected by major radio stations. They said it didn't fit their playlists. Some even said he was too old. Fans were outraged. But Cliff didn't give up. Without big label support or mainstream radio, the song still shot to #1 and stayed there for 3 weeks. It was a stunning reminder that Cliff's connection with his audience was stronger than industry politics. He proved that support from real people mattered more than industry trends. But behind all the success, his personal life was marked by quiet sadness. He loved one woman for 50 years. She married someone else, twice. And in the end, she died in his arms. Cliff never married. He had no children. While the world saw a confident star, he was carrying heartache that few knew about. In 2014, everything changed again. Police raided his home after false accusations, broadcast in secret collaboration with the BBC. No charges were ever filed, but the damage was deep. Cliff lost weight, suffered from shingles, and couldn't sleep. He stopped feeling safe in his own house. The man who once ruled stadiums was now afraid to answer his door. And yet, he didn't vanish. He fought for his name, cleared his reputation, and kept moving forward. Through it all, Cliff Richard remained one of the most reliable forces in British music. He outlasted trends, scandals, and massive shifts in the industry. He stayed true to who he was, reinvented himself when he needed to, and never relied on controversy or gimmicks to stay relevant. He made music that mattered, performed with honesty, and built a legacy that spans generations. His story isn't just about fame. It's about resilience, faith, and the quiet strength to keep going when everything around you says stop. Few artists can claim what Cliff Richard has done, not just in terms of charts or awards, but in the way he stayed connected, respected, and loved for so long. If you're still watching, you now know the truth behind the headlines and the hits. The man who went from war-torn India to global stardom never stopped believing in what he could do. And that belief, more than anything else, is what kept him standing tall in a business that's known for forgetting its stars. If you found this story fascinating, make sure to hit that thumbs up, subscribe for more stories like this, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Whether you've been a fan for decades or just learned something new, Cliff Richard's story is one that stays with you long after the music fades out.